Microsoft has been very out front in opposing some of President Trump's policies, whether it's the travel ban or DACA, where you guys said, look, if you come after our people, we'll take legal action. How do you decide when to push back?
For us, it comes down to what are the timeless values that then have to translate into these principled stands that we take. Whether it comes to immigration, making sure that we do everything to protect our employees who are contributing not only to Microsoft but to the American society, in the case of Dreamers, taking a principled stance. So that's how we pick these issues. But at the same time, we're not elected officials. I don't have a mandate. So we're clear that ultimately we are subject to laws, but we will fight for what we believe is the rights of our people.
We've seen the NFL getting pushback for pushing back against President Trump. Starbucks has gotten pushback from shareholders. I'm curious, have you gotten any of that pushback from customers or the board?
One of the things, whether it's at the board or even at our management level, perhaps the biggest recognition, if I've learned one thing in my, 3.5 years as a CEO, is the true constituent nature of the job, right? It's not as simple as thinking of it as just the shareholders, just the customers, just the employees, just the government. It's all of these forces simultaneously all the time. For a large company like ours, a large multinational company like ours, really balancing all of this is what is required.
You've met President Trump twice now. What's your impression?
Both the times, the conversations were all centered around, in fact, my conversations were around immigration and why I think immigration and immigration reform can drive American competitiveness, making the case for it, as well as the need for American infrastructure, in particular digital infrastructure. And those conversations were good, and he was receptive to those ideas, and now we need to sort of keep working and making sure that there's action on it.
We're seeing drive to further regulate the tech industry, from Google to Facebook, from the US to Europe. Are you concerned about the threat of increased regulation?
I think the most important thing for tech companies is not to worry about any impending regulation. You have to be able to look and say, like in our case, in any country, whether it's in the UK, in Germany, in China, or in the United States, how have small businesses become more productive? How have large businesses in those countries become more competitive? How has public sector become more efficient? That, to me, is ultimately how I think we have to measure our success. And that's what's going to cause governments to say, are these companies contributing or not?
Do you think that the tech industry should be doing more self-policing?
I think we all, because the pace of change is such and rapid, that we absolutely are going to look at the unintended consequences of technology and make sure that we do not trade away some of these timeless values as there are advances in technology. So I think long before even regulation, it's important for tech companies to, quote unquote, self-police or build the tools that create transparency, make sure that people's privacy is protected.
There's been a spate of sexual harassment allegations in tech. Many revealed publicly, many more, I'm sure, happening that we don't know about. What is the responsibility of the tech industry here?
First, let's start with recognizing how important it is for our business to have a diverse workforce that is then able to do their best work. But that means you have an inclusive culture so that you can create the products and services that can serve the world. And I look at it in Microsoft, we talk about our mission is empowering every person in every organization. And it has to start with representing that every person in every organization inside. If you recognize that importance, then you will go to work like we are in saying, okay, what's the representation? In our case, for example, women's representation, which is low. We've been pushing hard. In the last couple of years, we've gone and improved it by a couple of points to 27.7%, which is nothing to write home about. We have a long way to go. We improved it, in fact, by 4%, again, from a much lower base. But the thing that perhaps all of this conversation in the tech industry is, I believe, the best thing that can happen for this industry, because we are now going to tackle front on, without sort of having this be something that is not talked about, as what about inclusion? it's not just the numbers. The numbers don't happen on their own. It only happens when people feel that they can, in fact, bring their A game.
You made a much criticized remark at the Grace Hopper conference in 2014 about women seeking pay raises. You said it's not really about asking for a raise, but knowing and having faith that the system will give you the right raise. You apologized. You spent 4 pages in your book talking about why that was wrong. How has that experience informed your views about, revealing your own implicit biases and others having the same sort of awakening?
I mean, to take a question at a women's conference and answer it literally based on one's own experience, especially sitting in the seat I sit in, it's just nonsense. Because what was behind the question is, what are you as the CEO of Microsoft going to do to make the system be more fair so that I get the opportunity to do my best work? And that, to me, is of the real awakening. And that's what I went back and said, wow, how could I not get that, the deeper sense behind the question? Definitely for me, I've used it as a learning opportunity. And for our company, I think we are better off because of my real public messing up of that, because we take it seriously. But I mean, I've had a chance to learn a lot from it.